Welcome to T-News 9 channel. Today, we're diving into a chilling chapter from the gripping novel, The Cases That Wait. This is chapter 16, titled A Name I Avoided. Some files don't stay closed. They just wait. It's a lesson you learn the hard way in this line of work. You think you've moved on, put the past behind you, sealed it shut in a manila folder destined to gather dust in some forgotten archive. But the truth is, some cases have a life of their own. They breathe in the dark, they whisper in the quiet moments, and they wait for the perfect time to crawl back into the light. For me, that time was now. I was sitting at my desk, the city lights painting blurry streaks on the window, a half-empty glass of whiskey in my hand. The amber liquid was supposed to dull the edges, to quiet the ghosts, but tonight, it wasn't working. I was sifting through a stack of cold cases, a grim routine I'd developed over the years. Most were just names and dates, tragedies reduced to ink on paper. But then, one file, thin and unassuming, caught my eye. I flipped it open, and that's when it happened. A name I hadn't allowed myself to think about, let alone speak, for nearly a decade. The name hit me harder than the whiskey ever could. A punch to the gut that stole the air from my lungs. Evan Miller, age 8, missing. Suddenly, I wasn't in my office anymore. I was back then, standing on the muddy bank of a swollen river, the rain plastering my hair to my face. The scent of damp earth and decay filled my senses. I had tried to bury that case deep, so deep I almost convinced myself it was gone. I told myself it was different from the others. I told myself I did everything right, followed every lead, exhausted every possibility. But a small, nagging voice in the back of my mind, a voice that sounded a lot like my own conscience, always whispered the truth. You didn't. You missed something. You failed him. The river had been the main suspect, a hungry, churning beast that swept away everything in its path. We searched for weeks, but it kept its secrets locked tight in its murky depths. They say what goes into the rivers always return what they take.
Chapter 17, The Wrong Parent. We arrested the father because it made sense. That was the mistake. The father sat alone in the interview room. No lawyer, no water. His hands rested on the table, knuckles cracked and dry. Construction work leaves marks that don't just wash off. We called them signs of aggression. He only spoke when spoken to, offering short answers with no extra details. That made us uncomfortable. Grief is supposed to be loud and messy, but his wasn't. The case file told its own story. There were noise complaints, arguments with neighbors, a raised voice once, months before. We stacked those moments together, built a flimsy structure, and called it motive. The voice returned, sharp this time. You needed a villain. You just needed someone to blame. Meanwhile, the mother cried in the hallway. Everyone saw her tears as a sign of love. No one questioned the timing. People trust tears. We brought the father back into the interview room, asking the same questions in a different order, hoping that repetition would finally break him. It didn't. I didn't hurt my son, he said. His voice wasn't pleading or defensive. It was just certain. And that kind of certainty unsettles people who have already made up their minds. I found myself watching his hands. They shook, just once. Not from guilt, I realized, but from holding something back. What happened that day? I asked, my voice softer this time. He swallowed hard. I yelled at him. He said, for running ahead. The entire room leaned in, sensing a confession. Except it wasn't. Parents yell. It's what they do. Predators, on the other hand, isolate their victims. We ignored that crucial difference. We wanted a quick resolution. We wanted relief for the community. So I picked up the pen. I signed the paper and recommended charges be filed. Years later, I can still remember the scratching sound the pen made against the paper. The voice in my head went quiet then. It didn't need to speak anymore. I had already chosen the wrong explanation, the easy answer. We didn't accuse him because he was guilty. We accused him because he was easy. Chapter 18 of The Cases That Wait, titled Noise and Silence. People think silence hides guilt, but sometimes what it really hides is pain. The mother in this case never stopped talking, even when no one was asking her a question. She filled the entire room with schedules, with memories, with apologies. She talked about school times, dinner plans, what Evan liked to eat. All these details just poured out of her, almost like she was trying to offer proof of something. And we let her. We let her talk because noise, it feels honest. It keeps you from asking the really hard questions. Meanwhile, the father sat in the exact same chair every single time we met. His hands were folded, his eyes were always looking down. He would only answer exactly what was asked of him, and not a single word more. And that made us uneasy. Silence creates space, and that space invites doubt. A voice in my head kept telling me, one of them is controlling the room. We just couldn't see it yet. The mother would cry, almost on cue. It wasn't loud, just enough to make you notice, and you could see people in the room literally lean in towards her. The father, on the other hand, he leaned inward. It was like his grief was turning him smaller, making him shrink into himself. The mother's stories started to overlap. She'd retell the same moments, but with slight changes each time. They weren't exactly lies, more like adjustments. Her memory was editing itself in real time. So, I asked her the same question twice, hours apart. What time did Evan leave the house? Both times, she answered immediately, with 2 different times. And she was completely confident in both answers. But confidence isn't the same as accuracy. Confidence is rehearsal. The father, however, corrected himself once, but he did it by saying less. He paused. You could see him checking his memory, and then he answered. That takes real effort. Liars tend to rush their answers. The truth often hesitates. I didn't write anything down, I just listened. Not to the words they were saying, but to the control. Who was directing the attention in the room? Who was closing down the conversation? Who decided when the crying stopped? The mother ended every single exchange. She'd end it with gratitude, or with exhaustion, or with a sense of finality. She wasn't just hiding information, she was actively managing it. The father never tried to end anything, he just waited. It was as if waiting had always been safer for him than speaking. Finally, the room fell quiet, and that's when it hit me. We weren't listening wrong, we were just listening too loud. Silence didn't protect the lie, the noise did. Chapter 19 of the novel, The Cases That Wait, titled Pattern Recognition. 1 tragedy is an accident, 2 is a pattern. I stopped focusing on Evan's case alone. I looked outward, because cases don't exist in isolation, they travel. So, I started pulling files from neighboring towns, from different departments, spanning different years. Yet, some things remained the same. The same river, the same season, the same age, 8, 9, 8 again, all missing. At first, I found nothing substantial. That's how patterns hide. They spread out just enough to avoid drawing attention. Then, the quiet voice in my head returned. Predators depend on borders. Every single case had a convenient suspect. Someone close, a father, a stepfather, a neighbor with a known temper. They were easy shapes to blame, convenient scapegoats. The official reports all sounded so confident, almost too confident, but certainty loves shortcuts, and these cases were full of them. I started marking timelines on the wall. School dismissal, that unsupervised gap in the afternoon, a routine broken just once. It was always the same window of opportunity, 30 minutes. It wasn't happening at night or in the deep woods. It was in broad daylight, in familiar places. Places safe enough for a child to trust, yet dangerous enough for a predator to gain access. I checked the arrest records. Charges dropped. Cases went cold. Files were archived away. Not a single conviction, just a trail of damage. The river was mentioned in every report, but not as a piece of evidence. It was an excuse. Water explains absence. It washes away responsibility, leaving no one to blame. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the board. If this was a pattern, it wasn't a chaotic one. It was patient. This was someone who knew routines inside and out. Someone who returned, again and again. Someone who didn't panic. The mother's frantic cries echoed in my head, and so did the father's heavy silence. Neither of them fit the profile of a predator, but someone else did. Someone who could cross town lines easily. Someone who would be welcomed, even trusted. I stood up and circled one word on the board. Helper. Volunteers. The search organizers. The very people who show up first to offer support. My chest tightened. We hadn't missed the evidence. We had mistaken kindness for safety. The danger wasn't hiding from us. It was helping us look.
Chapter 20. The Man Who Helps. Trust the man everyone trusts last. He was already there when we arrived. Vest on, clipboard in hand. Directing people like this wasn't his first search. He knew names, paths, where to look and where not to. Everyone listened. That should have worried us. He brought water, food, reassurance. He spoke softly and touched shoulders. Comfort feels safe. Predators borrow it. The voice returned, low. Helpers crave proximity. He never asked for updates. He didn't need them. He knew the schedule. School dismissal. Walking routes. Which parents were late? I watched his feet. They never pointed toward the river. Everyone else drifted there eventually because water ends hope. He stayed near the trail. The gap. The place Evan disappeared. He spoke to the mother gently. Too gently. He avoided the father completely. Didn't meet his eyes. Guilt avoids unpredictability. He joked with officers. Shared stories. History. I asked him how long he'd been helping with searches. Years, he said, proud. That wasn't volunteerism. That was access. Do you remember Evan's jacket? I asked casually. Red, he said instantly. No hesitation. No check. The detail hadn't been released. Silence stretched. Just enough. He smiled, adjusted. Someone mentioned it. Someone hadn't. I wrote nothing down. I didn't need to. He wasn't nervous. He was practiced. And practice only comes from repetition. He didn't wait for permission. He waited for opportunity. Thank you for tuning in to T News 9. If you enjoyed this chapter, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. See you next time.